Alright, what's up everybody? Today we're going to be talking about the current US military buildup around Iran right now. If this looks confusing, don't worry, we'll explain it all. Since the protests broke across Iran in early January, the United States has been moving more military equipment into the Middle East to give themselves the options for strikes if necessary. It's been looking increasingly more and more like the US is going to lean towards doing strikes because the sheer amount of equipment moved to the region and the posturing that's been going on recently. Right now deployed in Central Command, we have 36 F-15s, 36 F-16s, 30 F-35s, 12 A-10s, and a bunch of other aircraft too. One of the main things that leads a lot of people to believe that strikes will happen is the presence of these AWACS aircraft. Basically, this thing is a big ass flying radar that can go over an area to provide a clearer picture of what's happening on the front, be it command and control center, and handle communications going on around here. Those are mainly used in higher and more prolonged campaigns. And if you thought that was a lot, that's not even half of it, because I was gatekeeping the USS Abraham Lincoln with that lavender square. On this big ass boat, we got 12 F-15s, 36 FA-18s, 6 EA-16Gs, 4 E-2s, and 4 P-8s. The carrier is currently sitting in the Arabian Sea and was sent there about a month ago to increase the pressure on Iran. And recently, the US sent the USS Gerald R. Ford over here, which I was gatekeeping with this square. This one has 48 FA-18s, 6 EA-18s, 4 EA-2s, and 2 P-8s. And if that wasn't enough for you, in Europe, we also have 36 F-35s, 24 F-15s, 28 F-16s, and 12 F-22s, which could be moved into the Middle East within a day. Combining all these numbers together, you get a lot. And honestly, like, military equipment is kind of like my weak spot, but it doesn't take knowing a lot about equipment to know that this is like a fucking lot. And this isn't even factoring in any of Israel's air force either, which combined with this strike force could flatten most institutions in Iran over a prolonged campaign. Speaking of Israel, there's also been some more clues that a strike could be coming soon. The IDF has done strikes inside of Lebanon, which have killed the top 8 of Hezbollah's missile command. I don't know how the Mossad does it, but they have crazy intel. If you're not aware, Hezbollah is one of the main factions that Iran uses to destabilize the Middle East and promote their interests. They were instrumental in the south of Syria of upholding Bashar al-Assad's regime before he fell in December 2024, and combined with Hamas as well as the Houthis make up Iran's main proxy network along with some Iraqi militias. Back when Assad still held Syria, Iran used these groups and that government to act as a form of mutually assured destruction against Israel. If they ever tried to use their air force to attack Iran directly, they'd tell Hamas and Hezbollah to launch a bunch of rockets at Israel. But ever since October 7th, these groups have been getting dismantled one by one. Hamas's military capability has been reduced pretty much to a block party. Hezbollah got absolutely gutted by the Patriot attack in 2024, and because of the weakening of Hezbollah, that led to the fall of al-Assad in Syria. So by mid-2025, we were living in a world with no al-Assad, a much weaker Hezbollah, and a much weaker Hamas. The Houthis remained relatively intact. The US and Israel did do some strikes on them, but they're a little bit too far away to really have that same threat with the rockets and with the missiles. And after the weakening of the proxies, this opened up the door for Israel to completely embarrass Iran during the 12-day war. They started out by striking their air defense, then hit multiple military installations, and specifically targeted their ballistic missiles, because I believe I read somewhere that Iran was trying to make 2,000 ballistic missiles a year in their new program, and if they got to that point, they'd be able to hit Israel over and over again. So this was pretty much an existential issue for the state, which is why the 12-day war was mostly launched. And of course, a little cherry on the top was the US coming through and wrecking Fordo. I've heard people be skeptical of how much that actually did destroy. I don't think there's any confirmation either way, but it definitely did damage the site. We've seen Israel alone take over all of Iran's sky, and if we have all this junk in the area too, it's going to be even easier. Iran uses primarily Russian air defense like S-300, S-400, and if you know one thing about Russian air defense, you know that it aggressively underperforms in almost any relevant context. If I was president of the US and Canada was launching ballistic missile at us, and I had to choose between an S-300 or one bird with a bomb strapped to his chest that might fly in front of the missile, I'm taking the bird every time. But this is a little anecdotal thing. One of my former professors was the ambassador to the UN for Iraq for about 20 years. And I had a conversation with him about what's going on. And he said that the people in Washington that he's connected to says that it's pretty likely that something's going to happen just because of how much stuff we've moved. As far as timing goes, for the past 2 months, everybody's been saying within 2 weeks, so I'm hesitant to make a real call on this. Flights to Europe from the US with military aircraft have slowed down over the past couple of days, so it's looking like the pieces might be more into place. Air defense has been moved to American bases in the region, as well as the allies like Jordan, Qatar, and Israel. A lot of people are saying it's either going to happen this week or sometime in the middle of March just because of the weather. There's certain factors that Trump is going to have to weigh if he makes a decision. Does he want to wait until the markets close at 4 p.m. on Friday to launch an attack? Because conflict is never good for the markets, but then also the Iranians are probably going to expect them to launch an attack on the weekend. So would it be better to do it during during the week as an element of surprise. Then there's weather to consider too. It looks like Wednesday to Friday is going to be relatively clear skies across Iran in the major cities too. Then you got to think about the moon, and there's so many factors that go into this, but basically the main windows of opportunity are going to be the end of this week and this weekend, or maybe somewhere in the middle of March based on the moon, weather, all that stuff too. That's basically all we know right now, but the United States has not stopped sending equipment to this region. We have so much stuff in this area. The fall of Iran would be a massive geopolitical shift in the United States' favor. It depends on what government comes out of it next. Is it going to be a more neutral one, more pro-West, more pro-US? Like, what is it going to really be? I know that Trump and Jared Kushner have met in Mar-a-Lago with Iranian opposition to try to come up with a plan afterwards, but I believe I've seen a graph. I'll put it on screen if I'm right, and I'll cut this segment out if I'm not. I think China is the biggest importer of Iranian oil. And the thing with Venezuela as well makes me wonder, do we have some kind of intel that the Chinese are going to act on Taiwan earlier than we expected? If I remember right, usually April and October are the main areas where the seas will be calm enough to launch an invasion. I've heard this so many times. People always say Xi Jinping instructed the PLA to be ready to invade Taiwan by 2027. It makes me wonder if that number was fake and misleading and they might actually try to act on it this April. It makes me wonder if that's the reason why the United States did the thing with Venezuela at this time, to cut off a heavy oil producing nation that's friendly to China and that China imported some stuff from. Cutting off Iran as well would be a massive hindrance to China in this area. There's two things I can see. It's either China was going to launch the invasion early and was saving up oil, or it might come later in 2027, 2028, but Trump is using this as a way to block the Chinese from stockpiling oil for that, because one of the main signs that the Chinese would do it is building up of fuel, military buildup, probably a bunch of influence campaigns across the US. But that's how Iran fits into the main puzzle pieces of this messed up world we live in sometimes. It's a beautiful world though, don't worry. And that's all I got for y'all. I'll give you an update as soon as something happens. I've been watching my phone constantly. Whenever anything happens, you will know about it. That's all I'm talking about. All right, see you later.